Hambini fans, and welcome to today's episode of the Good Hair Show with a little smattering of wank and fail forks. This is a fork that one of my viewers sent to me. He had a problem with it because he cut the steerer too short. Now, he'd also seen one of my videos on my Look bike where I had the same problem, and I thought I would do a video of how you go about trying to remedy this. Now, before I go on, let me be honest. The easiest way to fix this is to buy a new fork. But that costs a lot of money, and sometimes the forks become unavailable because the paint jobs and things change. Now, on my Look bike, what I did was I actually made a new headset. In this case, now I'm a bit older and wiser, you can actually just modify one of these, which is, it's almost like a generic headset that I've seen on so many bikes that come out of China. I think this is made in Taiwan, but I'm not completely sure. It consists of a top cap, which is the preload system, and then this thing here, which goes in there and expands out, and that locks itself to the fork steerer. All we're going to do is we're going to modify that and then install that. Now, I don't need to machine a new one of these. In fact, it's not cost effective for me to do it. So what the chap has asked for is he's asked for a gain of about 15 millimeters. So this will give him that, and what that does is that replaces that. So if I assemble it and show you, to get this one apart, you undo that. This is a lot thicker. It's reinforced in the sense that it's physically thicker. Pop that in there and then squash that down. But the taper angle is the same. So then we can pop that into there and then tighten this up. Screwed that in, and literally it is just an Allen head in there. Because it's a bit deeper, you may have to use the long end of it. There are some things that you have to do. I mean, the most obvious one is to make sure that this is flat and true. When I got it, it wasn't. So I had to do a little bit of fettling to get it so it was flush all the way around. Now, most stems are 40 millimeters thick. What you want to have is as much of the stem clamping on the carbon as you can reasonably get away with. The other thing that changes between the old one and the new one is this screw. So this countersunk screw is the original. We have to replace it with the longer one, and that's mainly because the hole in there is obviously a bit deeper. And then that's the preload system. To preload it, it's just the same as the original. You put that through and then screw it down. Now, like quite a few headset manufacturers these days, I always recommend that you put a small spacer under there before you put the stem down, because it's really important that you clamp down on the stem and not on the steerer fork. Right, it is that time of the show again. It is time for PowerPoint, one of those things that we always have to do. And I've titled this PowerPoint, Fixing a Fork Steerer with Insufficient Penetration, by Hambini, aged 5, who is hung like a giraffe. Right, so I'm prattling around as always. There are some other ways you can do this. This one on the left here is a item that you can buy from Amazon. It's like 18 quid. And that'll extend a lot higher than the one I've just shown you. But there are some issues with extending that high, in the sense that I would never recommend it. And there's also another chap here who's got a video called Let's Extend the Steerer Tube. This one's a lot similar to the one I've just shown you, but again, it's got massive extension. This is quite possibly one of the finest PowerPoint animations I've done. So this is a schematic of the headset of the bike frame. So we have the top bearing. Pardon me, because I do I have put it down as a deep groove radial ball bearing, and most of them are angular contact bearings, but my PowerPoint's not that good yet. And then we have the lower headset bearing, the fork with the steerer tube that comes through that's too short, then a spacer on top of it. Sometimes these are like wedged collets, so have a look at that. Then that entire assembly that I've just shown you. So the yellow bit is basically the extension. This grey bit is the friction fit into the inside of the steerer tube, and the green thing is the clamping screw that's hollow. After that, you put the stem on. Now, a key point here is you want to have as much of the stem as reasonably possible. Obviously you've cut it too short, on the carbon or on the original if it's aluminium, rather than having it all on the aluminium, as in all on the yellow bit. The reason for that is then the torque transfer loads would have to go through the bung if it was all on the extended bit. So I recommend you don't do that. Then after that, another spacer, the top cap, and then a screw all the way down, and that will preload this bearing and this bearing. So that is how that works. Obviously, the limitations that I've mentioned are don't make it too high, in the sense of don't put your stem so it's just bolted onto the orange bit or yellow bit. And that's about it really. There's nothing else really in there. I mean, like I said earlier, if you are going to do a pucker job, the best thing to do is get a new fork. There are some potential pitfalls. So when this one arrived at me, this is how it looked. I mean, the cut on it, I don't think the chap realised how off it was, but you can clearly see there's a big gap there, nothing there. And this was a test piece that I put in. So once that's done, then you get onto the other problems that you might have, the pitfalls. So first of all, make it sure it's square, and then the other thing is the orange size needs to be fractionally smaller than the steerer tube. So if you look very carefully around there, you can see the aluminium bit, the metal bit, is ever so slightly smaller. Another thing you need to consider is the fork steerer tube itself. They are rarely concentric, so this part of the assembly probably need to make maybe 2 millimeters, 1 to 2 millimeters. I mean, even 3, 4. It doesn't really matter. Smaller than the blue dimension. So that dimension there is rarely concentric, and as a result you need to make this one here smaller, and that's so you can wiggle it around to get it centralized. This is the OE one on the right above it that I've highlighted, and this is the part that takes over. Now there is a full video on this and the application of this, and I'll link to it below. I'd suggest you watch that in conjunction with this. That looks more through the assembly of it rather than this video, which just shows you how it went together. That is it. Only a short one today. If you've got any questions or comments, remember to ask them below. This is a bit more of a technical video than normal. Please like and subscribe, and follow me on Wankstagram. Obviously there's the website hambini.com. I'll also put a link to a web page below, so that I'll have some more bits and pieces with regards to this modification, because it's quite a popular mod. And that brings us to the end. Now if you did enjoy it, remember to smash that like button. If you didn't, go screw your hairdresser. Have I got that wrong?